Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I'm happy to just jump in. And Sandra, if you have any specific questions or anything, or if anyone does, please jump in at any time. So, thank you again for having me. As you mentioned, my name is Kelley Coleman, and I am a mom, an advocate, and an author. My book is Everything No One Tells You About Parenting a Disabled Child. There you go. Your guide to the essential systems, services, and supports. And it is how the heck to do all of the paperwork and the planning and all of the boring and seemingly impossible stuff that we have to figure out when we have a child who has a disability. The book is weirdly not boring, I swear. And it's written like a conversation because, as you guys know, I'm going to assume the folks on here are parents. I know there might be some self advocates here. Yay, if there are, that's the best. But someone correct me in the chat if there are self advocates. Otherwise, I'll assume parents. Um, as parents, we need things that are a conversation that we can understand and that we can actually do, and that don't make us feel bad about, like, I don't know how to call my insurance company. Because we all have that experience. My son, Aaron, I have two boys. I have a 13-year-old Sean who does not have any disabilities. I have an 11-year-old Aaron who has multiple disabilities. Interestingly, Down syndrome is not one of his disabilities, but friends and many people within the Down syndrome community were really the first people to welcome us in and say, you know what, come sit at our table. Our son Aaron has an undiagnosed genetic syndrome. We've done every test science has available, and we haven't found the gene yet. But within that, he's been diagnosed with autism, epilepsy, cerebral palsy, cortical vision impairment, has a feeding tube, fine motor, gross motor, cognitive, developmental, sensory. He's super handsome, which is the most important. So he's an overachiever. He just checks a lot of boxes. And it's been so great to find community with Down syndrome families. And I think the very first thing I learned from individuals with Down syndrome and from families whose children have it is the notion of talking about our kids and greeting the news of our kids, whether it's arriving or coming to school or whatever, with the same amount of joy that we would talk about and welcome any other kid. And that has so stuck with me because, like, I'm sure many folks here, I really have been on a journey of realizing that I would have thought before I had my son Aaron, like, oh, I'm great with disability. Disability's terrific. Sure, I have disabled friends. But when it's your own kid, it becomes this roller coaster journey where doctors and family and friends and strangers are telling you what a tragedy disability is. And, oh, I don't know how you're going to do this. Oh, I'm so sorry. And we started on this journey when our son was an infant. And I know Down syndrome people often find out prenatally or in infancy. So we have this in common of, like, I just want people to tell me my kid has awesome hair, which he does. Not like, oh, I'm so sorry for you. So I'm coming from a place of, I have been on the journey and I really love and embrace both of my kids for all of the things they are. And the book is absolutely not coming from a place of, oh, you poor thing, you have to deal with all this stuff. It's not coming from a place of, if we do enough stuff, we can just fix our kids and make them not disabled. I am in the same boat as you guys. Our kids are perfect and whole and complete as they are. There's nothing, we can't therapy the genetics out of our kids, and we don't want to, and we don't need to. And I have been so fortunate to become friends with and be in community with so many disabled leaders and influencers and just other humans in the world talking about the experience of disability. And every single person I've talked to, from friends who live down the street, from experts who are White House appointees, everybody says, yes, being disabled is harder than not. And not only is it okay to talk about that, but it is necessary. My kid and his personality, that's not what's hard. Like, he's this great, funny, hilarious human. Um, but these systems that we're just ready to pull our hair out of, like, how do I navigate regional center? They won't even call me back. What the heck is an IEP? I have all these doctors and specialists, and I need to learn neurology by yesterday. There's a lot that is hard, plus the social piece of not everyone is ready for a kid like mine, who is loud and proud and squealy and happy, and he's going to cheer for the lettuce at Trader Joe's because he loves the lighting situation. And you know what, that's okay. I've come to the point of realizing, and this was also part of the journey for me. One day I caught myself at the grocery store apologizing for Aaron doing his dancing and cheering very loudly at the lettuce. And I was apologizing. And I just had this moment of, wait a second, my kid isn't doing anything wrong. And he is hearing me apologize for his joy and for just him being who he is. And I'm not okay with that. And I don't want him growing up like this. So I taught myself, and it was a matter of teaching myself, to, instead of apologizing when he's not doing anything wrong, if my kids are doing something wrong, ideally they will apologize, or I will apologize. We'll all do it together. But if they're not doing anything wrong, we don't apologize. And we say, yes, he is dancing and taking up the whole aisle at Costco. Thank you for understanding. Yes, you know what? We do take a long time to get up the stairs. Thank you for understanding. And I think that's something that has really resonated so much with my friends whose kiddos have Down syndrome, because as a society, we feel like we need to apologize for things that are outside of the norm. And oftentimes our kids just are. And that's okay. And yes, it is exhausting to feel like we're teaching the world every time we're leaving the house. But ideally, we're teaching our kids to become self-advocates. And right now, for my 11-year-old, whose communication is emerging, he communicates largely with an AAC device, which, if people aren't familiar with that, it's a communication device. Ours is an iPad. There are many communication programs. This morning, he said, let's go Target, like 10 times, because they wanted to go to Target. Or up, down, one up, down, which is how he says elevator. So it's emerging, and his self-advocacy might look like him choosing his clothes, deciding which friends we want to call for a play date this weekend, or deciding if he wants to go to Trader Joe's or to Target, and really building that in. So as I was writing this book, it's coming from such a place of, it is harder to have a disabled child than not because there's anything wrong with our kids, but because there's so much paperwork, and it's never fun to do all this paperwork. But we can get better at it. We can do better. We can radically share with one another and really teach one another how to do this job of caregiving. As you guys know, caregiving is a job in addition to parenting. And sometimes it can be a lot. For me, my son will require full-time assistance. He has life. So for me, this is a full-time and forever job, even with respite supports and help in place. And he goes to school. He loves school. But there's a lot to do. So that's where this book is coming from, is how do we equalize access to information across everybody and as early as possible. Um, Unfortunately, the statistics are there. I am a white lady who speaks English, so my kid gets more of the services and supports that he needs to thrive than people who don't check the same demographic boxes that we do. And that's not okay. For anyone who might need the book and can't afford to buy the book, it is available in very, very many of the Los Angeles public libraries. You can put it on hold at your library and have it sent over from another library. You don't have to spend the $20 for a book. If you want to, yes, 100%, but get it for free from the library and share it with all the other parents you can, because all of our kids need equal access to the supports they individually need to thrive. We are very fortunate to live in California, to live in Los Angeles. I'll assume that those of us who are here are Los Angeles folks. There's a lot available. We need to figure out how to access it. Within the book, each chapter has a personal story. It has the basic topic of the chapter. There are over 40 experts in the book, many of whom themselves. There are letters from fellow parents, templates, worksheets, my list of what for me, list of questions to ask yourself, and then it ends with what now and where do you start and what do you do from here. Lots of lists, lots of bullet points to make it as easy as possible. The chapters are diagnosis, working with your medical team, therapies, insurance and government benefits. Weirdly, people are like, I laughed during the insurance chapter. Is that strange? I'm like, yes, and that's why it works. IEPs, school, future care plans and financial planning, what this looks like for you as a parent caregiver, disability rights and advocacy, which is frankly more essential now and in this moment in time than ever before, and really an inclusion in your community, which Down syndrome advocates and self advocates have really been leading the charge in this in so many ways, which is really exciting. So all of those chapters, it's how to figure out and actually do all of this boring stuff that we don't know how to do when we start this journey. But so much of supporting our kids really depends on our ability to do it and figure it out. And I'm really excited that I've just gotten so much feedback from families, from social workers, from organizations, from even more families, strangers and friends alike, saying, wow, this made a difference. I appealed a claim to my insurance company that I didn't know I could appeal. I started a future care plan, even though I don't have successor guardians, or I'm figuring out my finances, even though I don't have $1 zillion in the bank. What do I do? I finally understood what's going on in the IEP meeting. And that's really why I wrote the book, is so that we can all have access to the things our kids need to succeed. And frankly, so we can spend time just being parents and just loving and enjoying our kids exactly as they are. So, and Sandra, I'm happy to just go on and keep talking all day, or if you had specific questions, happy to chime in, whatever you is your preference.
If anybody has questions, please, you can either put it in the message or you can just unmute yourself. I think you can unmute yourself. Let me see if I can.
And I'm on my phone,
I
so
muted
let's
some people, so they might try not to. Okay, let me see. Um, one of and a lot of the stuff that you're saying, I think we all, even now, like I said, my son is 26. And I feel like many times I feel like I need to go around apologizing
Yes.
But thank you for saying that because sometimes my son wants to talk to random people and
Yes.
very friendly, and it's hard to understand what he says, but he wants to talk to people. And people are nice enough to stay, but sometimes he can go on and on and on. And, you know, one of the questions that I always have for, like a lot of families are, I think the biggest questions come from IHSS,
Mhm.
because, a lot of us, I guess, have a little bit of more money because we're able to, get some money from IHSS.
Mhm.
It's, uh, we have done a lot of presentations, but I think a lot of the questions come from, because overall, this is how it works. You know what I'm saying? This is how it works. But in real life, some of the things that we do,
Mhm.
as parents, we have to have figure out talking to other parents or something like that, Is that
Mhm.
something that you have on the book or the book, addressing IHSS?
So I'm happy to talk about IHSS here because I have some really simple things that I'm like, everybody needs to do this. The book, I intentionally made it so that it applies to everyone across the country. Unfortunately, my good friend in Texas does not have the same social service supports that we do here in California. So while it doesn't talk about that specifically, I'm happy to address my IHSS cheat sheet. So I love that you brought that up because that's something we all need to know about and to make as easy as possible because like nobody needs more paperwork. And also side note, my son does the same thing yours does, is just goes up and starts talking to people, and his is like waving and waving, and he has his talker and is like saying 100 different things and wants to keep standing there and waving. So yes, we do that all the time, and hopefully we'll, because our kids will be like, you are my people. I love it. Um, so, if anyone here is not familiar with IHSS, and I'll also be sure to explain a bit for the recording. So, IHSS is in home supportive services. And first, you need to have Medi Cal, and um, you need to be a regional center client in order to have Medi-Cal through the disability waiver. Medi-Cal can be available to you based on income if you are below a certain income threshold, but you need to have it based on disability through regional center. If you're not a regional center client, there are certain qualifying diagnoses, and Down syndrome absolutely is one. Call the regional center main number, Google Regional Center Los Angeles, and if you don't get the one closest to you, they'll send you to the one closest to you, and say that you'd like to do an intake for your child who has Down syndrome, or in my case, I listed all of his many delays, and they will do an intake. And once you're a regional center client, if you do not already have Medi-Cal based on disability, they will sometimes call that the Medi-Cal waiver, WAIVER waiver. Um, you need to have that in order to have IHSS. So that is the first step. What is IHSS? It is money paid to a caregiver up to a certain amount of hours that are awarded to the individual. The maximum hours per month is 283 hours per month. And does everyone get that? No, no, they do not. Am I guaranteeing you will get that? No, I am not. But should you appeal for that? Yes, you should. We'll talk about that in a second. So it is support for individuals with disabilities. For adults, it's for can be for different reasons. For kids, it's really kids who have support needs well above and beyond what a typical child would have. For example, if your child is one, you're going to be diapering them, whatever disability they do or do not have. I'm diapering my 11-year-old. So that is above and beyond. He has a feeding tube. I'm administering his feeding tube. So that is above and beyond. In addition, his safety awareness, the way that he moves through the world and is wobbly, his judgment of situations and what to put in his mouth or not. He really does require the constant supervision. So, IHSS, if you are thinking about applying, the most important thing you can do that will take 5 minutes or less, you can Google IHSS number and the main number will pull up. The first step is to call the number and you leave a message. If you don't have IHSS, you should do that today. Here's why. You will leave a message, someone will call you back, they will start the intake process. Whether that process takes 2 weeks, or for us, I don't know why, but it took like 4 months. The checks that you will receive will date back to that date when you first left that message. So literally one day, and this was before they were doing it electronically several years ago, I opened up the mailbox and there was a stack for 4 months of checks. And that is money that the taxpayers have voted for. Our representatives have deemed this is important because we live in a state where it is important to give equal access and necessary supports to people with disabilities. And oh, hey, you got my book up. Woo! So the checks will backdate to when you first left that message. You will have an IHSS worker who will come, who will meet you, who will talk to you, who will meet your child, and you will talk about the supports that they need. They will ask about therapies and if they're in school and doctors and specialists and all of that stuff. And they will make a determination on how many hours your child will be awarded per month. You can use the IHSS hours to hire someone else to come in and they enter timesheets in the system. You are not paying them. IHSS sends them direct deposits to their account once they enter in hours. Or as a parent provider, I am my son's parent provider. My husband is my backup provider if I'm not available. I enter the timesheets in. And when you are a live-in parent provider, you do not pay taxes on the amount that you are paid through IHSS. If you hire someone who is not a parent provider, they will pay taxes. You will not. Just to let you know, that is how it works in California. And you will enter the timesheets. You'll get paid every other week. It is a significant amount of money. I don't remember how much it pays right now, but for if your child is receiving maximum hours, it's tax-free, certainly over $50,000 a year if your child is receiving maximum hours.
1850, just
1850. Thank you so much. So 283 hours times 1850 times 12. That's how 12 months in a year. That hours to. Very often when you apply for IHSS, they will not give you the full hours. And you might say, you know what? My child doesn't require that many hours, so I'm good with what they've awarded me. Or you might say, wow, my kid needs all this and more. If you need to appeal, when you get the letter saying, here's how many hours, there will be a page that says how to appeal. It spells it out. It is actually not that hard. And it's just doing what they say on that letter. We had to appeal. Again, I have a son with a tremendous amount of support needs, who is very clearly quite disabled. And they gave us very few hours to begin with. I appealed, and we did get the 283 hours. I try and, whether it's with IHSS or whether it's with anything else, my goal is to make it as easy as possible for them to say yes to what my child needs. It's not about what I'm demanding, it's about what my child actually needs. So, in order to make it as easy as possible, and every year we have a meeting with our IHSS worker. He comes to the house, we talk, we fill out some paperwork. It's quite an easy meeting for the redetermination because it's just checking the same boxes unless and making sure nothing has changed. I'm pretty sure this time next year, your child will still have Down syndrome. My child will still have his genetic condition. So it's an easy meeting because there's an amount that doesn't change. So what I do in advance of our meeting every year, and if you do this in advance of your initial evaluation, allows them to say yes much faster and easier. I provide them with all the information they need. The first time you compile this, it's an amount of time, but then every year I take 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and I update it and I print it out. What do I give them? I give them one page that lists all of our child's doctors and specialists. Our kiddo has many. A page that lists our child's therapists and how often he's in therapy, what types of therapy there are, that he is in school. If you want, you can include the school calendar to show them how often your child is in school. My child is in school full time, and I list. I call it the hazard log. My child has a lot of very legitimate ways that his world is hazardous to him, as I mentioned, putting things in his mouth that he could choke on, laying down and holding toys above his head, and if he's not supervised, he will drop them on his face. It's a long list by now. A list of, and that hazard log shows the reasons he will run towards moving cars. So, like, all hands on deck in the parking lot. Anything you can think of, whether it's hazards or whether it is reasons my child needs maximum supervision, um, and write down everything you can think of, because what you are doing is you're creating a record of reasons why they need to award you the number of hours that you are requesting. They call it protective supervision, that they award the 283 hours for. So if your child genuinely and legitimately requires protective supervision, there you go. Many kids with Down syndrome do, and adults. I say kids, but obviously much applies to adults. I'm not somebody who's like, hey, here's how to beat the system. Here's how to cheat it. No, we do not do that. Nope, we are very legit. We are very above board. But when our kids need things, we need to ask for them and we need to appeal. So become a regional center client, get the Medi-Cal waiver based on disability through regional center, call and leave a message at IHSS, go through the process and give them the doctors, the therapists, the school information. They might ask for a copy of your child's most recent IEP. We can talk about IEPs if you guys want, and give them the reasons why your child requires protective supervision. My child has epilepsy. His seizures only happen during sleep, and he has chronic vomiting and isn't able to clear his airway. So, am I in the bed or the room or supervising him all night? Often, yes, I am. So, you know what? That's above and beyond. So, again, don't put anything on there that's not true, but be sure to make it easy for them to say yes. So, that's my long winded IHSS answer for you.
Thank you so much for doing that. If anybody else has questions, I think Kelly's recording stopped.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I didn't even realize I had like that note taker still on. So,
Is that you or somebody
yeah,
else?
that is mine. I thought I had like deleted that
Oh,
constant.
okay. I was
The internet follows us everywhere. That's what we learned.
All right. Any, let's see. I don't think I have any questions, but Tony had to drop off. We do have Carmen does have a 2 year old, which is, oh, 2 month old, almost 2 months.
Oh, almost 2 months. Congratulations. Oh my gosh, babies are the best. They're
Hmm.
so great. Here I am looking, just seeing questions. Looks like 2 years next. My baby will be
Oh,
2 years.
oh, 2 years next.
Well,
Next
still, congratulations.
2 years.
Because toddlers are the best. Um, and I know it sounds like we have a range. There's a 23-year-old, there's a 2-year-old, and there's still so much that we have in common that we're juggling. I know the transition to adulthood with the 23-year-old you have been through, and that's like a whole ball of wax, and frankly, might be the next book because so many people about. Um, with the 2-year-old, things, and anybody who's on who would like to chime in with their experience on this, please do. This is an open discussion. Um, Things that I wish I had known when my son was 2 years old. Also, if people are comfortable sharing and you don't have to, would love to hear in the chat or unmute yourselves what part of town you guys are in, because I'm in the Valley, and I can speak more profoundly to services and supports available in the Valley, but I also know things in other parts of town as well. Um, so things I wish I had known, and again, people please chime in. Your child will, oh, I see Hawthorne. Excellent. Thank you, Carmen. Um, and I have to keep like toggling in and out of chat so I can see what the heck I'm doing. Um, so when your child is under age 3, they are not considered part of the school system. They're considered fully part of the regional center for their supports and services. At age 3, the supports and services switch to being school based, and they make it so much more confusing than it needs to be. And anyone with older kids, feel free to emoji or comment, or jump in. Like, holy cow, why do they make everything so confusing, right? Thank you for the thumbs up, Carmen. Like, what? So much paperwork. So they transition into school based services. Your regional center will connect you with someone from the school district. I will assume, unless you guys tell me differently, that you're part of Los Angeles Unified School District. There are many smaller districts within, but it's pretty much the same. But I say LA because that's what we're a part of. And you'll switch to school-based services, but still receive regional center services. And they will explain to you how that changes. Um, it is absolutely worthwhile to look into public preschool programs. Um, there are some really excellent options out there. And it is a great way for your child to begin to learn how to be in school, to have a lot of fun, to be with friends, to plug my phone in, to really have that experience. And they focus a ton in the special education preschool programs on language development. So that is can be a huge asset. So know that just because it is a public preschool program, maybe you want to send your kid to fancy private preschool, go for it. But there are a lot of great options. And I mentioned regional center, and this is something that applies to all of us whose kids qualify as regional center clients. And again, if your child has Down syndrome, they qualify and you're eligible to receive these services. Respite is something that we all should be receiving. Respite is basically babysitting. And I say babysitting, even though if your kid's an adult, they're not a baby, they're not a kid, but there you go. I need better words. Respite is someone coming in, caring for your child so that you get a break, whether that is, it's very legitimate if you are showering or going to the gym or working or volunteering or having a hot, whatever it is. There used to be a maximum number of respite hours that regional centers could award. There's now not a maximum number of hours. It's really based on need. So know that if someone tells you you can only get a certain number of hours, that used to be true, that is no longer true. Um, so be aware of that. Also, back to IHSS for a second. You can get IHSS and you can even get the full amount of hours, even if you are also working full time. Um, that used to not necessarily be the case, but you absolutely can. So be aware of that for your own process and advocacy, because I know many of us are working full time. Um, Regional Center, and Sandra, I don't know if this is something that you guys have talked about a lot in your groups, has a program that's open to everyone, to all clients, called Self-Determination. Have you guys talked about that much?
Yes, we have somewhat.
Okay, okay, great.
My son is in his fifth year in
Nice.
self-determination. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. My son is actually in the last couple days of his fifth year and is about to enter his
Oh,
sixth.
oh,
Um,
wow.
I love that you're old school like we are. We started it. Um, we got in as part of the pilot,
Yeah, we
and
did too.
yeah, I'm gonna say I'm sure you did, and I'm sure you had the experience that we did, where it was a lot of figuring it out,
Oh,
and
yeah, for sure.
like, oh my goodness. But my very quick primer, and I won't spend too much time on it because I know you said that you guys have talked about it more. But if people want to talk about it, absolutely. Um, so regional center, not under self-determination, under the regular model, we'll call it, is you meet with your coordinator and they decide for the year what services and supports your child needs, and they are offering you. You create that regional center spending plan, budget, all of that. And you are able to work with individuals and organizations that are vendored with regional center to deliver the services under self-determination. And it's a different process to enter, which I'll briefly go over. um, they will say, here is what we're offering under the regular program. Within our categories, again, everything is very legitimate, everything has to be within their categories. um, how would you like to, and ideally when your kid is able, will be a part of this conversation and discussion, how would you like to spend this money? And the reason that is so powerful for so many regional center consumers is that you don't have to use regional center vendors for it, and everything does have to be inclusive. So I can't, for example, send my kid to a camp all summer that is only for kids with disabilities. Things need to be inclusive and open to all. So that is a rule within the regional center system. But if my son wants to go to soccer classes, for example, and there's not a soccer class that is available to us or convenient to us that is vendored with my regional center, then I am able to choose a soccer class of any sort that is inclusive and available and accessible for my son. And we've done that with great success. And he has been able to do soccer that has been funded through the regional center, that has been um, part of his social recreational plan, and that he has just benefited tremendously from. So that's been really exciting. If you are looking at respite hours, you are able to hire a respite provider who is not through an agency. For example, if I'm just making up numbers here, say I have 100 respite hours to use this month, and I have not been able to find an agency that can provide a person either who is available or appropriate or that I like or my kid likes, to fill those hours. Those hours very likely could go unused. But if I have a neighbor who has known my kid his whole life and is a retired nurse and is great and awesome and is looking for hours, I can hire my neighbor She absolutely has to go through all of the background checks, get registered with the financial manager who is managing all of the money. Again, everything is above board and as safe and geared towards your child as possible. But instead of paying the agency, I'm making this up again, $30 an hour for their respite person, and they, again, making this up, they get half of that and then the provider gets half of that. Instead of doing that, by not hiring an agency, I can take those $30 an hour, I can pay my neighbor $30 an hour, and she's psyched and she's reliable and she's on time because $30 an hour is a really good rate. So we are able to pay our respite providers more by not going through an agency. We are able to access things like inclusive camps, soccer, swim lessons, and experiences that we wouldn't otherwise be able to access or pay for because they're not vendored with our regional center. And it also can include, and again, this all depends on your spending plan, your child's needs first and foremost, and how you have individually set this up. The supports that they need can also be included. For example, my son needs swim diapers for his swim lessons. So regional center absolutely can cover those swim diapers if it is part of that self-determination plan. Um, our son is a great example, and I'm sure Sandra and so many others have this same story. Um, every year, we spend less of the regional center money allotted to us to get our son more and better services that he would under the traditional model. So, as taxpayers, hooray, we're spending less money. And as parents, hooray, like my kid is like, he can kick a soccer ball down the field and into the net and make a goal. He might not move as fast as his brother, but he's rocking this. And that would not have been available to us. And I think so many parents can relate. There are things that, we're debating, like, do I want to put the money into the soccer lessons and my kid might just be making snow angels in the dirt the whole time, and is it worth it? And it takes out that question for us of saying, hey, I think this is something that he would really enjoy and would thrive and benefits him and his development in so many ways. And certainly the interaction with the other kids has been invaluable. So self-determination has been something that I to this. Is there more work on your part? Yes, there is. Um, is it a huge, enormous, heavy amount of work on your part? Not in my experience. If people are interested, I can certainly talk about ways to make it easier and make it less work when you're in self-determination. But if that's something folks are interested in, and that is available again to children, to adults, to everyone, it can really be life-changing, which is pretty great. And I'll check the
Three,
chat again.
3 years, I
Mhm.
believe 3 years old and up.
Okay, yes, I'm sorry, you're right. 3 years old and up. And in order to enter the self-determination program, on the chat, somebody said they just applied for IHSS. I love that you applied, and don't think for a second like, oh, I should have applied earlier. I should have done this. Nope. We do the best with the information we have, and your regional center and school team, if they were not about this from an early age, you know what? Whenever you find out about it, that's the time to act. So good for you for being in the process. And if there's anything we can talk about or do to support you in that, I'm all for it. Um, do people have other specific questions?
I wanted to mention that you're right about this, when you're spending a lot of money on activities that your kid may not do so well, or it gets expensive. My son, I feel like, we've been doing hockey for many years, but the last few years I was thinking, oh, he's not doing so well and whatever else, but I think it's for the year it's like $1,200, something like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
Plus all the equipment or other things or trips that we have to take. So it's been very helpful to get self-determination to pay for most of the expenses now for Larry's activities after his program, or his they pay for almost everything except for our trips and things that we have to make with
Hmm.
hockey team.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm also considering now, like put in maybe in the next budget
Hmm.
expenses because we're traveling with the team. You know,
Hmm. Yep.
that's something that it's part of what he's doing. He enjoys it so much. Ice skating, with his friends, and he, you know. So, so I feel like self-determination has opened more and more doors for us, and for us to be able to financially be able to afford it,
Hmm.
and
I love that you shared that. Thank you. And by the way, can he teach me to ice skate? Because I like 100% like I'm on that. Anytime I've tried, I'm like, this looks like so much fun. And like, how do people do this? Like you guys are all wizards who can do this. Exactly what you said. It opens doors. And I'm guessing that you've had the experience that I've had, through soccer, for example, for our son, of the confidence
Mhm.
and the comfort level of being a person in the world, being part of a team and a group, and getting to know and have relationships with these other people, that we just see how much that impacts life.
Right. Yeah.
And it's so exciting. And you're right, there's things that it's like, oh, we can't afford to do X and Y and Z, especially when we don't know if our son is like how it's
Oh,
in all of that. And so it's exciting to be able to jump in.
I think we lost somebody. I think well, yeah, you've
Oh,
been going in and out a little bit, but we understand what you're saying.
oh, okay.
But yeah,
And
no, it's
Carmen, you
okay.
might be off of mute if you wanted to jump in. Anybody, feel free to jump in. Um, but truly, things as we're talking about IHSS and about self determination, we all have to have a sense of humor about the fact that, like, oh, yeah, this is a lot and it's a lot of stuff. And as I mentioned, nobody knows how to do it. That's, again, like, that is why I wrote this book. And we have going through, and even as a 2 year old, there's with 2 year old, there is stuff that you know now that you did not know before. I could talk about neurology and genetics all day long. Like, that is not my training. I am not a science person, but I've become a science person. Um,
But for
the big
for the
thing that I,
sorry.
what was that?
So sorry, I could think you're
Oh,
cutting out
that's
a
okay.
little bit, but yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Like, flag me if I am. Is the biggest thing, and whether it is, I'm a writer, so I wrote a book. Whether it is talking to people in the lobby at therapy appointments or at doctors' offices, whether it is sharing on Facebook or other social media groups, sharing at organizations and meetings like DSLA, um, we need to share our information on how to do all of this. Um, I have a page that I typed up on how to get Medi-Cal to cover diapers, because holy cow, that took me forever to figure out. And I think it's a little bit tricky before age 5, but age 5 and up, Medi-Cal absolutely should be covering diapers, even if it is just diapers that your child is wearing at night, with insert pads that they can pay for as well. We need to share information with each other. And even if you come onto a meeting like this and you're like, hey, I don't know who needs to hear this, but I just figured out how to get my child to brush his teeth in a way that is comfortable and accessible and works for him. I just wanted to share. I guarantee that someone needs that information. And even if they don't need it today, they will remember that somewhere in their brain. And when their kid is having a hard time brushing their teeth, they will remember and use that. As you guys know, parents are so often the way to get the best information. We get amazing information from our doctors, our medical professionals, our therapists, our educators, our social workers. But really, when we can get that real wisdom from parents and connect with other parents at groups like this and other is really magical. So I really appreciate that everyone is here, because that's why we're all here, is to just radically share our information.
Yeah, thank you so much. And you're right. This is how we all learn, by talking to other parents,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of the information's, I don't know why it's not shared more from professionals,
Mm-hmm.
how to go about it. Because they can give us the name of something and a phone number, and then that's it sometimes.
Yes.
We have to figure everything else out.
Yes. And oftentimes something like, I wish I'd known this from the beginning. If I am trying to figure something out, and say I'm asking our doctor or our teacher or our regional center caseworker, um, if I'm asking them a question and they don't have the answer, they might not, and that's okay. Always ask, what are my next steps? What do you suggest from here? Because they might not have the answer, but they might have the next steps. And for us, with our son has a lot of medical complexity, and with his medical journey, that has become essential. Our doctors don't always have the answers. There's a lot with him medically that we don't know answers to, but we can ask, what are the next steps? And there can be a next step forward that might take a while, but will get us to the answers we need eventually.
I just met well, I mean, I've known this mom, but I just heard her story not long ago. But she does a lot of stuff with our kids with Down syndrome, and she
Mhm.
has some generic disorder that they're not really sure what it is, kind of like you. And now that I hear you saying that, I was like, oh, maybe it's more common than not that people don't really know what's going on with their kids. But it's they're pretty much spending a lot of time within our community with kids with Down syndrome. So I am glad that even though it's not you know whatever it is that's the difference in their making, but they can find a home within the Down syndrome community.
Oh
You
my goodness.
know.
I have so much, and I'm so appreciative of that. And also, as you're talking, I'm sure most of you guys know this, but to just reiterate and always keep in mind, I've learned this from advocates with Down syndrome, from families of those who have it. Um, a lot of assumptions are made about people because of a Down syndrome diagnosis, and not just like, oh, you'll only achieve this, or like, no, people with Down syndrome can like run Ironmans, like there's no ceiling on achievement. But assumptions might be made medically or academically, and especially medically. I've talked to a number of folks who have suspected their kids have maybe autism or some other sensory processing, auditory processing challenges, dyslexia. Down syndrome does not exist in a vacuum. I don't know. It may,
Yeah.
um, it is possible if you feel like you need to be having conversations
Oh, we're losing you a little bit.
in addition. Oh, okay.
Can you repeat
Well, wait
that,
a
the
sec. Is
last
that
two
any?
sentences?
Yes. So, so Down syndrome does not exist in a vacuum. It is possible that anyone could have an additional diagnosis, and that is not something to fear or freak out about. It is a way to potentially better understand your child. So just be sure that medical professionals, if you are bringing up questions that you think might be something, it could be a sensory processing issue, it could be being neurodivergent, it could be auditory processing, a vision thing. My kid has all those, by the way. Um, if you suspect something is going on in addition to Down syndrome that needs to be explored, and especially medically, um, if doctors are saying, oh, that's just kids with Down syndrome, there is nothing wrong with getting a second opinion. Major hospitals take Medi-Cal. UCLA Children's Hospital have amazing programs that tend to be very sympathetic and empathetic with us and our kiddos. Um, don't be afraid to talk to people, bring up any questions or concerns. Um, and you might be wrong. I've been wrong about so many things, but I've never regretted asking the questions. And it is unfortunate that people make assumptions about individuals with Down syndrome all the time. It's ridiculous, but it happens. Um, and as we can see, if you don't already, follow as many adults with Down syndrome as you can on social media. There are so many amazing leaders, advocates, creators who are really leading the charge as they should be. Ideally, I'm not leading my kid's advocacy. He is leading it and I'm following his lead. But he's 11, so he's kid. So of course I am. But the more we can learn about disability of any sort from actual disabled people, the more likely we are to get it right and to best serve our kids in being the fullest version of themselves, which is frankly what I want for both of my kids, disabled or not, is to empower them to be the best version of themselves. For one of my kids, that means learning to use his talker. That means kicking the soccer ball. That means swimming in the deep end of the pool, which he can do now and is awesome. For my other kids, that means learning magic and playing the tuba. Cool. Um,
Right.
they're all very much on their own journey.
You're right. I think for for our kids, we just need to give them those experiences, the
Mhm.
opportunity to participate and belong, and little by little you'll know what's something that they really love doing or being part of, even the friends that they choose, so
Mhm. Yeah, and it's exciting when they're making those choices and telling you and communicating. And on the way to school, I'm hearing my kid in the back seat with his talker saying, go school, Miss Core, who's his teacher, Gavin, Gavin, Carla, Carla, Carla. You know what, you get to hang out with Carla and Gavin today, and it's the best. And the more we can empower communication of any sort, it's all legitimate, the more we can encourage and support that. Like, it's so exciting.
right, yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kelly. And thank you for giving us this your morning on a weekend, which is,
Of course.
precious. Thank you so much. And I want to also thank everyone else for spending your morning with us. You can always reach out to us. And Brenda, or no, Carmen, who has a 2-year-old, pretty soon you're going to be transitioning to the school district. And usually all the assessments start at 2.5 years old. So make sure you're connected with the school district. And if the regional center doesn't help you with that process, because they usually do, but if they don't, just you can just go to your local school and ask for those assessments yourself.
Mhm.
Anyway, I just want to
Yes.
tell you that because
And
she has a 2-year-old.
yep. And at age 2.5 is when you can start that process, because at age 3, no matter what point in the school year it falls, your child can start receiving services through the school system, and there are a lot of great service available. It can be preschool. There are different classes. Again, many focus on language development and socialization. There are therapies available through the school and during the school day. And also, um, I found that preschool, like, I got a break. My kid is nonstop and he's awesome and wonderful, but it's also good for our own mental health. I know we didn't dig into that much, but we do need to look out for that.